Well, like I said in yesterday's video, the season never stops. And even though it's been, 10 days since the Lions season officially ended and we still have 4 days to the Super Bowl, the Lions are still making moves. It's like this thing never stops. And because this is the deepest we've gone in the offseason, this is like... It's weird being in this position because you truly don't get a break. There's no break between, even though the news is kind of slow in February and July, there is no break. It's a lot of behind the scenes things going on. And the Detroit Lions actually brought in a wide receiver for a workout and then wind up signing him to a future reserve contract. And his name is Tre'Quan Smith. He was on the Denver Broncos practice squad. Now, this is coming from Pride of Detroit. Said the Lions are likely very familiar with Smith, who was a third-round pick for the New Orleans Saints back in 2018. Obviously, both coach Dan Campbell and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn overlap with Smith's time in New Orleans, as both were on the Saints coaching staff for Smith's first 3 years in the NFL. Smith played in New Orleans for 5 seasons, starting a total of 35 games over that span. His best statistical year was a modest 2020 season when he caught 34 passes for 448 yards and 4 touchdowns. For most of his time with the Saints, he was either wide receiver 3 or 4 option. In 2023, he spent most of the year on the Denver Broncos practice squad. As a matter of fact, he does not have a single recorded stat for 2023. So he didn't do anything when it came to this year. Now, a future reserve contract. We made a video last week about how the Detroit Lions signed 12 players to a future reserve contract. And what that basically does is that ensures that going into the 90-man roster, that these players will be part of the team. So a lot of these players will wind up going on the practice squad. So when the new league year begins in about 5 weeks, these players will be part of that 90-man roster. And then, of course, you've got the cut later on in August at the end of the preseason when the practice squad has been made. Now, continuing from Pride of Detroit says at 6'1" with 4.49 speed, so he's not the fastest guy, Smith is decent outside receiver depth, something the Lions have long lacked the last 3 seasons. Though Detroit has decent depth at wide receiver position in 2024, we got St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, Antoine Green, who did not see any action that I can remember, Tom Kennedy, and Maurice Alexander, with Darius Fountain all still under contract. Fountain also signed a future reserve deal. The Lions, most of these players lack the combination of great size and speed, and we just discussed that he's not the fastest guy out there. With Donovan Peoples-Jones and Josh Reynolds set to become free agents, Smith could be some fresh competition in the room, and he can play both the slot and the outside. And then if you go to Pride of Detroit, I'll link this article in the description. They have a highlight reel from the 2022 season, I believe it was, because he did not have a single recorded stat for 2023. And you can see the guy, one very thing that I could see, he's not the fastest dude. You can always tell when he's in the lineup, he's got a very weird looking stance. He just looks weird in his lining up on the line of scrimmage. But it looks like he has good hands, not the fastest guy. He can go and get a contested ball or two. But this guy here we're thinking about it, right? Maurice Alexander, our last pick in the 2023 NFL draft, saw little to no action at all during the 2023 NFL season. And like I was saying before, if we wind up bringing back Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones, then we are essentially going to have the same wide receiver room that we had in 2023. Now, if you look at this, you might say, okay, we have other assets. We have other needs to fill, more pressing needs. Receiver, to me, was a big deal going into the season. Don't forget, we lost Quintez Cephas, who I saw a video of him practicing the other day. That's going to be kind of weird to see where he lands. But you're talking about receiver depth, and you've got old reliable St. Brown. You've got Sam Laporta, who is essentially a wide receiver, right? You've got Jamison Williams, who no doubt will get more work heading into 2024. Then you've got Antoine Green. Those guys are under contract. Then you have that wide receiver 5 and 6. Now, don't forget, the Lions went into the 2024 NFL season with only 5 wide receivers on, because I remember that being a very surprising thing. 5 wide receivers on the roster. As far as, the actual 53-man roster, then we had a few on the practice squad. So if we bring in a guy, if we keep Josh Reynolds, so that's Khalif Raymond, Jameson Williams, Antoine Green, and who was the last one? St. Brown. Those are 4 of the 5 to 6 wide receivers who are under contract for the Detroit Lions. You might as well cut Antoine Green. I don't see him getting any extra time. I just don't. I see the Lions bringing in a free agent before Antoine Green. Obviously, he's like the Broderick Martin, but a lot lesser pick, right? So the question is, will we have 5 or 6 wide receivers? Will we bring both Donovan Peoples-Jones and Josh Reynolds back? So let me know in the comments below, which one would you prefer? If you can only pick one between Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and we'll probably make a video about both of those guys somewhere in the future. Which one would you take back? Which one would you take? For me, at first I said Donovan Peoples-Jones because he was younger. He was the kind of the long ball game, and I saw what he could do in Cleveland. But then looking at how the season played out, Josh Reynolds, even though he had a little stint at the end of the season, in the middle where he just disappeared, and then, he had those crucial drops at the end of in the playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, I still think he contributes a big part to this team. And I think keeping most of those core wide receivers together would be beneficial for the Detroit Lions and our quarterback, Jared Goff. But then, like I said, if you bring both those guys back, our wide receiver room will be exactly the same. And you have to ask yourself, is that okay? For me, if we could bring both those guys back and get Donovan Peoples-Jones along with Jameson Williams and get those guys up their production, I think we would have a very substantial wide receiver core heading into 2024. So, we still got to make videos about some sleeper guys that we could sign in case we don't get Josh Reynolds back. I think he wants to come back, but I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is, I don't know, man. I feel like he's the odd man out, Donovan Peoples-Jones, but then you have the fact that we gave up draft capital for this guy. So then that might be, but we also gave up draft capital for Trinity Benson, and we did everything possible to keep him on the team. Donovan Peoples-Jones is not one of those guys that could go on the practice squad and stay there. Somebody would come poach him immediately. He would be gone immediately. So that's going to be, I don't know, man. It's going to be very very intriguing going into the NFL offseason. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below about Tre'Quan Smith, and which one of the guys would you prefer over DPJ and JR? So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, man. On a push, I'm trying to get an old lion away, but nobody's subscribing to the channel. We had a very decent January, almost 2,000 subscribers. Just to put that in perspective, we grew a little less than 10,000 all of last year, and we've already grown 2,000 in 1 month. So I am hoping for a 20 to 30,000 subscriber year. That would put me almost at 50K. We can dream. We really can. But the Lions are going to be Super Bowl, in my opinion. I think they're going to be Super Bowl favorites. I think they're going to be one of 5 teams that are Super Bowl favorites. As a matter of fact, they have the 4th or 5th highest odds to win the Super Bowl under like the Bills, the Eagles, the Chiefs. I think it's Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, 49ers, Lions. Like, we're up there. So consider subscribing, man. We kind of hit it's tough. February is tough. I don't know which one is tougher, July or February. Even though football is right around the corner in July, it's still everybody's on vacation. So if I had to pick one, I would say July is worse than February. But, we kind of hit a little rough patch. So consider subscribing, man. I would appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.